thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Oh, yeah.
Gosh, they don't make them like they used to.
Whoa. Saman, hold on, bro. Hold on. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It's Tuesday, May 28th, and today is National Beef Burger Day.
Did you do your sound for
National
yourself?
Hamburger Day and National Brisket Day. Thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. We are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. But kicking it off for Saman, why do you keep talking?
He can't hear you.
Saman can't.
Jason, no one can hear you, bro. Your sound.
I can hear him.
Everybody hears me, bro. So, yeah, I don't know what your problem is, Simon. You need to plug into the internet or something. But nonetheless, we're going to kick it off with the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte. The man who has a bad hair days and all of a sudden wears a hat. That's right. It is none other than the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
And the crowd goes wild. I'm in the guy today. Thank you.
Yo, I can't hear anybody. Or I can hear you guys. Jason, I can't hear you.
Saman, that's enough, bro. That's enough.
As I tune in directly from the sky here, and Saman tries to figure out his headphone situation, we're going to talk a little bit about social equity. Because with 1 out of 3 citizens qualifying, Minnesota is on the path to having America's most populous social equity licensure program to date. What's the worst that could happen? The Minnesota Reformer's Christopher Ingram reported that between 30 and 40% of Minnesota adults could plausibly qualify as social equity applicants for cannabis business licenses, according to a Reformer estimate based on the new equity rules approved by legislature this year. Ingram says that much like many other states before, lawmakers initially created the category as a way to prioritize business applications for Minnesotans who have been harmed by marijuana prohibition in the past. Senator Lindsey Port of Burnsville, the chief author of the Senate, told the Star Tribune in March that it is the state's responsibility to undo the harm of prohibition. That means we have to aim the benefits proportionately at the communities that were harmed, end quote. But the social equity criteria written into law now includes a number of economic and social measures that go far beyond individuals and communities who have been targeted for past enforcement. They now encompass those Minnesotans who have lived in for 5 years in a neighborhood where more than 20% of people are in poverty or on food stamps, or where the median home income is less than 80% of statewide or metro area, or has lived in 5 years in a neighborhood with high levels of social vulnerability as defined by the CDC, or is a military veteran or a member of the National Guard, or was convicted of a cannabis offense in the past, or had a close family member convicted of an offense. But wait, there's more. If you also manage a small farm with less than $100,000 in annual sales, you too can qualify for social equity in cannabis for Minnesota. Or there's more, there really is. Have lived in 5 years in a neighborhood that has seen a disproportionate rate of prior cannabis enforcement, as determined in a forthcoming study, not even out yet, by the Office of Cannabis Management. Representative Nolan West. Right, exactly. You too can get a social equity license. So the lone Republican member of the conference committee, Nolan West of Blaine, said that he hashed out differences between the House and Senate on this year's bill. And as the Republicans supported the idea of granting social equity status to individuals with prior cannabis convictions and military veterans, but then they tried to loop in all these other groups that weren't very well defined. And it's because they really wanted to put race in the bill. The whole point of the fucking bill is for race. So I don't know, man. Numbers for the first three items on this CVS receipt long list of qualifiers can be estimated using federal data from the Census Bureau and the CDC. Residents of more than 1/3 of the state's 1,504 census tracts, which are small subdivisions of cities and counties, likely qualify based on poverty, income, food stamp, and social vulnerability criteria, provided they've lived in those neighborhoods for at least 5 years. Ingram says that roughly 1.1 million people, 25% of the state's 4.4 million adults, have lived at the same addresses within those tracts for more than 5 years, according to the state census data. Adding in the state's 327,000 veterans and subtracting the roughly 100,000 veterans who live in the qualifying census tracts brings the total up to 1.3 million adults, or a little over 30% of the total adult population. Stupid. And even the state's conservative at best, because it doesn't include prior cannabis convictions, which number is at least in the tens of thousands and likely hundreds of thousands once family convictions are factored in. But also not included are the hundreds of small farm operators with revenue less than $100,000 a year, or people living in neighborhoods that have experienced disproportionate cannabis enforcement, as a study to determine that has not been released yet. So at the end of this whole thing, while everybody's tallied up, you might have half of Minnesota, if not more than half of Minnesota, that qualifies for social equity. This is stupid. So the estimate also uses a strict definition of time in residence that excludes a number of people who move to a different home in the same census tract. All right, so factors like poverty rate definitions, social vulnerability thresholds, and neighborhood delineations can all affect which geographic areas are ultimately included. Ingram notes that the other states that have used similarly broad definitions in setting up their social equity programs, citing data from the Minority Cannabis Business Association and the MCBA on their part, says the use of non-race criteria and social equity qualifications in these definitions has not yielded diverse cannabis markets. You think? So look, I'm going to call it like it is, and I apologize for anyone offended by my choice of words, but it feels like social equity in cannabis is having its own all lives matter moment. Just like the term woke, which was originally a slang adjective used by people of color as a warning to remain on high alert to racial prejudices and discrimination coming your way. Over the last 4 to 5 years, we've witnessed the real-time gentrification of social equity too. When I marched, participated in rallies, co-produced expungement clinics, used my multiple platforms to help get out the word about social equity back in 2016, 2017 in Los Angeles, or when I assisted with the efforts on the ground through educational clinics and door-knocking campaigns with my counterparts up north in the Bay, both in the city and in the town. The whole philosophy or idea behind social equity in cannabis was rooted in righting the past wrongs of the U.S. government, all levels, federal down to local, for unfairly targeting and over-policing communities of color, which was the primary target of the illegal and racist war on drugs. Social equity is about race. Might not be constitutional, that's another conversation, but it is about race, period. But as we all know by now, and we're seeing this happen in Minnesota, it is not what social equity has become. Diluting the pool of who receives social equity licensure dilutes the term itself and the purpose behind the movement. No offense to U.S. military veterans, the queer community, women entrepreneurs, and or small farmers, but none of the aforementioned demographic categories of people were not unfairly targeted by cop shops driven by racist police hell-bent on tearing apart the same communities that fund their salaries. Taking away the original focus of social equity in cannabis robs the communities and the countless individuals and families that live in those communities that continue to suffer from the impact and the blowback from the war on drugs. So maybe it's time we just stop using the term social equity altogether, because this is
I've been saying that forever.
I don't know how much money is being is poured into Minnesota's social equity programming, but I can't see how anybody could afford to have all these licenses go to absolutely everybody. But that's just me. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News.
Well,
what do you guys think?
Just two quick things, Rico. I mean, this must have been written by Oprah, because you get a social equity license and you get a social equity license and you get a social equity license, and not to mention
literally no rules.
Exactly. Right. And this I think is actually the best rollout that we've seen of all socialist equity programs, because this is true socialist equity right here.
Well, you tried to sneak that in there, huh? The socialist equity.
You like that? You like that, Todd? Yeah.
That was clever. Clever.
Yep, that's what we do over here. High at 9.
Yeah. I think you're right, though, actually, Jason. I think this is the best rollout of a social equity program, because everybody's included, right?
Yep, everyone's included.
It's just silly. It's just silliness.
Well,
right?
they want to make sure that everyone feels included. Because there's so many people that don't feel included. Yeah, hold on. You only get a ribbon for participating.
Right.
Nah, man, you get trophies now, man.
You get the chance to apply for a license. Right?
Let your kid run around crazy and just kick at nothing. Everybody gets.
I'm all for social equity and making up for this horrible war on drugs that we've all lived through, and especially, some people worse than others. How do you do it? That's the problem. Because you really, as a business owner, right, you need to have the money to go run your business. And unless there's federal loans or small business loans that go to these folks or whoever qualifies, what is social equity exactly? Unless they create that. You know what I mean?
We all know what social equity is. We all know what it is.
What is
Tell
it?
us. What is it?
It's socialist equity.
All right. Well, beyond that,
social equity is a marketing buzzword created by H.G. Fredrickson in Idaho.
That part.
Back in 1968, a white man in Idaho created social equity. So whoever
he created it as a term.
And it was never meant to be like I truly put in practice.
And then all the wokies adopted it.
Yeah, so it's been, like I said, like the term's been gentrified. And
well, can a term be gentrified if it was already coined by a white guy? I mean, like, I'm just asking the question, right? Did it come pre-gentrified? I just want to know. Viewers want to know.
I think
because it wasn't culturally appropriated.
Hold on, Yarrow. I think at that point it would become whitewashed.
Cue the music.
Here's the thing. It was hijacked.
Writing the jokes.
Just saying.
But either way, man, it goes back to my point that, man, like not knowing like the source of what you're actually saying makes a difference, because it can come back to bite you. Like this whole thing's coming back to bite you. And then hold on. You can't go like municipality to municipality and they even agree on what social equity means.
That's right.
So if you can't go from like one town to one town, let alone a state to a state, good luck getting anybody in charge to agreeing what social equity should be. And people are just dancing around the fact that yes, it should be tied to race.
And that's
let me dance around your article for a second, okay? There is an argument
came up with the criteria to make it about race. The enforcers, right? So it should be about race, even though it's unconstitutional. That's it. Go ahead.
The argument that social equity might not look the same from state to state, market to market, whatnot, is there's actually a rational basis for that, which is that your constituents look different in different areas. People most impacted look different in different areas. And so there is this, I think, relatively reasonably thought out line of thinking, which is that there needs to be the ability for local municipalities to craft these programs to represent their constituents in the way that they were impacted. Mm-hmm. Okay, so I just kind of want to put that out there. The second thing is, I
say call it something else.
That's right.
Well, I can't say anything if you're just going to jump in over the top of me. I mean, it's your article. Does anybody else besides Jason say anything? So I wanted to support this program because I've always believed that social equity is like the justice system. It's better to see a few guilty people go free than it is to see innocent people be convicted and guilty. And so I've always felt that social equity programs should be a little bit more generous in their interpretation versus excluding people that might be sort of a toss-up in terms of whether they qualify or not. So I went online because I wanted to appreciate Minnesota. I thought maybe Minnesota was like that little stray dog that got kicked and only got to live in the barn and never even got to go inside the house, much as sit on someone's lap by the fireplace. And what I found was that in terms of education, poverty, and healthcare, Minnesota is not at the bottom of the barrel in this country. In fact, it's got really great ratings for a lot of those metrics that we would think of as sort of indicating the overall health and opportunity of the society and the people that live there. So I couldn't find it. And so back to your point, it's likely that these programs should be renamed to be more aligned with what they actually are. Even if the name of social equity came from a white guy, I get it, but like it should just be renamed, because what I do think is worth supporting is a notion separate from the racial component, which was always written out so that it would be supportable if it was litigated against race-based criteria. What I do think is worth supporting is the idea that as a fledgling industry, government support of a fledgling industry is not a bad thing. And so I think about the little baby dolphin. When it's born, the mama dolphin has to keep it up at the surface so it can learn to breathe, right? And so we have this little baby dolphin, fledgling, nascent, regulated industry, and it could use support to be up at the surface and learn to breathe. Now, one obvious way to do that would be to strip away the terrible layers of taxes and other ways in which this industry is being harmed before it's even had an opportunity to get out of the gate. But I don't think that we should say that just because this is a bastardized version of social equity at best, that we shouldn't still continue to say, look, if you want to regulate us, if you want to tax us, if you want us to come out of the shadows and into the light, find a way to support this industry the way government has found a way to support many industries, from technology to farming to research and development. There is this nexus between the sort of private enterprise and government, where government has been instrumental in supporting businesses. And so I think maybe we strip that conversation away. It's a little less charged, and it just says, look, if you're going to go from flying helicopters over our communities and putting people in handcuffs either on the stoop or on the city sidewalk, how do you support this industry? Because the industry does need support. And part of that is more reasonable regulations. Part of that is quicker permitting. Part of that is lower taxes. Part of that is probably a limitation to the local control that Rico touched upon that allows for 27 million varieties of definitions of social equity. But what I do want to say and raise my hand is this industry does need, if it's going to be regulated and actually a functional industry, does need government support. And maybe that government support doesn't need to come masquerading in the cloth of, hey, I'm going to right the wrongs, or hey, there's going to be an extra competitive advantage for some that were disproportionately impacted. But let's just talk about government support for this industry, because it needs it.
Mm-hmm. And on that, we're going to go to a commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Oh, man, that was weird. Hey, you, America. Do I look like Sean Connery? Good morning, America. Saman Razani coming to you live from sunny Los Angeles, California with the one and only highest host, Mr. Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast? You can find it on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. No excuses in 2024. If you haven't checked us out, check it out now. And also, check out what the Prophet's doing in 2024.
Oh, yes, and we're back, you guys. We are back. Rico, you still with us?
Best weed in the world, but also being the highest Republican in the room that he walks in.
Mm-hmm.
National Equity Socialist Party of America. Jason Beck.
Oh, you're funny guy, Rico. Funny guy. Well, let me tell you something. Thai cannabis supporters plan a legal challenge of policy, you guys, with a U-turn, and hundreds of cannabis entrepreneurs and farmers and activists rallied in Bangkok and threatened legal action against the Thai government as it pushes ahead with a plan to reclassify marijuana as a narcotic just 2 years after decriminalizing it. At Tuesday's rally in front of the United Nations regional headquarters in the Thai capital, nearly 2,000 signatures were collected in support of a legal petition to stall the government's move. Cannabis advocates held posters with messages like "Stop villainizing cannabis." The petition would be filed with an administrative court against Prime Minister Saritha Tavastan, said Jarawat Tiafrom, a cannabis business owner who collected the signatures. The forms required petitioners to specify any financial loss they would suffer if the government goes ahead with the U-turn. If the government backed down, we wouldn't need to file this petition, but we want to have this as an ammunition, Jarawat said. A complete recriminalization ordered by Saritha earlier this month has thrown the local cannabis industry into fresh uncertainties. Saritha said Thailand would put cannabis back into the list of Category 5 narcotics, which would make it a crime to produce, sell, import, export, or possess the plant and use it, after the Southeast Asian nation became the first in Asia to decriminalize the plant back in 2022, you guys. Well, it sounds like all these activists are getting all up in arms up in Thailand, and they're trying to protest. But what they got to realize is that they have a king, and they better fall in line, or else they're going to get fallen into a line. But nonetheless, I'm going to digress and see what y'all have to say about all of this. And this is Jason Beck for the High at 9 News. What do y'all think?
Well, it's going to be some shit going down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As soon as any of the politics change there, it's going to change back, and then it's going to change back, and then it's going to change back. Seems to be what they're doing, on a regular.
Exactly. I mean, these guys flip flop more than Rico does.
Oh, the easiest. And I had something for that, Jason. I had something for you today.
What's that?
On that.
There you go.
Slides, baby.
Actual
slides.
Over here, baby.
Oh boy.
Only slides.
I bet.
But it is the quickest way to make a stoner angry is to take his weed away. And you're about to see a bunch of angry stoners on the streets clashing with police. That's my prediction in Thailand. It's not gonna be pretty.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's not going to be pretty. Thailand is going to, but they're allowing for the medical. And so it's just,
along with the Buddhist monks.
Along with the Buddhist monks. Yes, that's right. That is right. They're going to
Thailand, one of the most decadent places on earth, but no weed.
No weed.
Well, it's not that there's no weed. There's lots of weed.
They're allowing
There's
medical.
lots of weed in Thailand. When we honeymooned in Southeast Asia almost 20 years ago at a 6-star resort, I didn't even know it went to 6 stars. I looked behind all the little thatched bungalows in paradise, and I saw hydroponic systems not very cleverly camouflaged in the jungle, and I was like, oh, what's that for? There's weed all over Thailand. It's just a question of whether we want to disconnect the enforcement mechanism so that these poor people can enjoy it without having to worry about it. I mean, when we talk about the side effects of cannabis and they talk about paranoia, I think if it was legal, you might get a very different side effect profile from people. Mm-hmm. And this flip-flopping is terrible. It's like, first of all, the genie was never in the bottle, and then you legalize it, and then you want a pendulum swing back. Terrible for investment, terrible for entrepreneurs, terrible on the world stage. Make a decision and stick with it. Make modest modifications to policy. But to your point, Jason, it is not a democracy over there. That's for sure.
No, it's not. It's not a democracy, and a lot of people want to think that it is. But no, it's a dictatorship, and whoever is making the rules is going to make the rules, and people just need to fall in line, or they're going to get put in line. And maybe it's going to be a firing squad line.
You get down or lay down, and you lay
That's
down
right.
and stay down.
Or move to the weed.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Oh man, like prayers for Thailand.
Prayers for Thailand, man. Well, I mean, they're going to be medical though. They're still going to be medical, but
if only they had a social equity program, that would fix everything.
Maybe they should call Minnesota.
How would they qualify everybody for that?
We should go fast.
Well, everybody's qualified, right? So,
I mean, that's why it's socialist
using
equity.
Minnesota rules.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. We're going to keep this train rolling. We're going to roll right on in to Mr. Todd Denkin. He's the man with the golden voice who also sells digital dank over at the Smuggleverse, and he is the creator and founder of DigiPath Labs, where you should be getting all of your stuff tested at in Arizona and Nevada. Todd, see,
there you go.
See that?
Hell yeah!
Look at that. That's right. It is none other than the voice himself, Mr. Todd Denkin.
Thank you, Jason, and the rest of you.
Yes.
I got some follow-up news from a story I did a couple of weeks ago in regards to psilocybin, as Federal Health Agency acknowledges psilocybin's therapeutic potential and touts forthcoming psychedelic research. To us by an Adlin over at Marijuana Moment. Newly posted page about psilocybin on the Federal Health Agency's website acknowledges the potential benefits and of the psychedelic substance, and it might provide, including for treatment of alcohol use disorder, anxiety, and depression. The page also highlights psilocybin research being funded by the federal government into the drug's effects on pain, as I covered a couple of weeks ago, also migraines, psychiatric disorders, and various other conditions. The page, quote, psilocybin for mental health and addiction, what you need to know, was posted this month on the website of the National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health, also known as the NCCIH, which is part of the National Institutes of Health. It includes basic information about what psilocybin is, where it comes from, the legal status of the drug, and preliminary findings around safety and efficacy. Psilocybin remains a Schedule I controlled substance. The page notes it's been granted breakthrough therapy status by the Food and Drug Administration and has been either decriminalized or deprioritized in some states and the District of Columbia. I love the term deprioritized. In terms of potential benefits, the NCCIH page highlights 3 possible areas of application: alcohol use disorder, anxiety and existential distress, and depression. It highlights a 2022 study that suggested that psilocybin may be helpful for alcohol use disorder. That research found people who were in psilocybin-assisted therapy had fewer heavy drinking days over 32 weeks than a control group, which the NCCIH page says suggests that psilocybin may be helpful for alcohol use disorder. As for anxiety and existential stress, Page says a small amount of research has studied psilocybin as a treatment for distress in people with serious medical illnesses like advanced cancer. A 2020 analysis of 4 small studies in 117 people, most with life-threatening cancer, concluded that psilocybin combined with psychotherapy may be safe and effective for improving anxiety, depression, and existential distress, as well as quality of life, it says, adding that because of limitations in the design of the studies and the small number of and health status of people involved, the authors note that the conclusions may have been a little biased. Regarding depression, A growing body of research has suggested that psilocybin combined with psychotherapy may be helpful for depression in short and medium term, the page says, citing 3 separate studies. A 2023 review and meta-analysis found that psilocybin-assisted therapy, quote, reduced depression symptoms for up to 5 weeks. A separate study that year found a single dose of psilocybin combined with therapy rapidly reduced symptoms of depression within 8 days, with benefits lasting for 6 weeks. Other research from 2021 found that psilocybin-assisted therapy, quote, did not reduce symptoms better than a common antidepressant medication combined with psychotherapy. National Center for Complementary and Integrative Health page reminds readers to not use psilocybin to postpone seeing a healthcare provider about a medical and mental health problem, and encourages people to take charge of your health. Talk with your healthcare providers about any complementary health approaches you use. One promising application for psychedelics could be pain management. NCCIH notes on its psilocybin page that the agency is currently funding research to study the safety and efficacy of psychedelic-assisted therapy for chronic pain, which you can also find at High at 9 News. While other federally funded research is looking into the effect of psilocybin on people with chronic low back pain and depression in regard to their emotions and perceptions of pain. Other inquiries seek to better understand the chemistry of psilocybin and the possible risk of interactions with selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, commonly used to treat psychiatric disorders, migraine headaches, and certain types of pain. Separate research published this month on psilocybin found that it's unlikely that a single experience with the drug changes people's religious or metaphysical beliefs, but it may affect their perception of whether animals, plants, or other objects experience consciousness. Findings of another recent study suggest that use of full-spectrum psychedelic mushroom extract has a more powerful effect than chemically synthesized psilocybin alone, which could have implications for psychedelic-assisted therapy. Findings imply that the experience of the entheogenic mushrooms may involve a so-called entourage effect similar to what's observed with cannabis and its many components. A separate study recently published by the American Medical Association found that single-dose psilocybin was not associated with risk of paranoia, while other adverse effects such as headaches are generally tolerable and resolved in 48 hours. That study, published in JAMA Psychiatry, involved a meta-analysis of double-blind clinical trials where psilocybin was used to treat anxiety and depression from 1966 to last year. JAMA published another recent study that similarly contradicted commonly held beliefs about the potential risks of psychedelic use, finding the substances may be associated with lower rates of psychotic symptoms among adolescents. Also, results of a clinical trial published by AMA in December suggest the efficacy and safety of psilocybin-assisted psychotherapy for treatment of bipolar II disorder, a mental health condition often associated with debilitating and difficult-to-treat depressive episodes. The association also published research last August that found people with major depression experienced, quote, clinically significant sustained reduction in their symptoms after just one dose of psilocybin. I'm Todd Denkin with High at 9 News, and I say that whenever a federal health agency acknowledges the power and therapeutic potential of psilocybin, it's always a step in the right direction. What do you guys think about this federally funded psilocybin research?
Man, who's going to be the fun guy for this, Todd? I mean, we're
all fun guys, aren't we?
I mean, yes. So, Saman, do you have any thoughts on this? I know you're operating on a little bit of a delay, Saman. No? Okay. All right.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Keep on going.
Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, usually I'm coming live from the Mushroom Kingdom, except today I'm back on Earth. I think it's great. I think that obviously we're seeing a huge shift just societally going toward natural products, adaptogens, entheogens in general. we don't know what the future holds. I wish I could say that I can predict the wackos in our government's minds that are, actually creating the structure and the pathways for us to, jump into either commerce or just as patients be able to get our hands on some of this natural medicine or natural product. I don't know. I don't want to get my hopes up. I'm like one of these people that when my expectations get too high and I get disappointed, it crushes me. So I don't want that to happen to anybody out there. I really believe that the major key here is that it's a movement in the right direction, and I just want to stay on the positive side of those things, because I do think that everybody can benefit from these adaptogens, entheogens, and just general natural products in society. So
it sounds like Saman is choosing to identify as a dreamer.
I was just going to say, I felt like there's nothing for me to say because he summarized it and at least spoke to my personal position better than I could have.
Look at that.
So I'm going to join the dreamers.
That's impressive, Yarrow.
Keep dreaming.
Yeah, he took the words out of your mouth, Yarrow.
He said it better than I could have.
Wow.
He took a step inside your head.
Wow, look at that. Look at that.
And my heart, because he talked about maintaining a positive attitude around being hopeful, but not getting our hopes too high.
Just so you guys know, I'm going to rain on your guys' parade because the government's going to screw all this up. All right, just get ready. All right, just get ready.
Yes, but if they screw it up in the right direction, it's a better type of screwed than we currently have.
No, they're not going to do that. It's not going to go that way. That's the dreamer part of you coming out in the conversation right there, Yarrow. They're going to fuck this up.
Oh yeah, they're going to fuck it up. They're going to
100%
hand it over to big pharma, who will in turn
Yep.
up royally, synthesize everything and.
Well, I'm dreamer number 2. I'm mushy for mushrooms, and I think Saman really, really spoke to the silent majority in terms of our hopeful yet pragmatic approach to seeing these things unfold.
Look at that, Saman.
Yeah,
you spoke for the silent majority, bro. Look at that.
He's such a do-gooder.
It's the man. The man. Just don't ask him to roll a blunt. But nonetheless,
That's right.
Yeah, we're going to go to a commercial. We're going to be right back.
Sure.
The Control Tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The Control Tower from Highly Educated. And we are back. And whatever you're doing, make sure that you hit that like button. I know you'll appreciate it, we'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show will be up on our website at www.high9news.com a little later this afternoon. Also, too, make sure that if you haven't yet checked out our videos on the weekend that we release every Saturday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast, which is our collab with the Blacklist XYZ, which is the top stories, which is known as our weekly blunt wrap-up of the XYZ list. I'm Jason Beck, and this is Smoky Vanilla. And if you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to get a stretch and smoke with Smoky Vanilla.
Hi, I'm Smoky Vanilla. I have my bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and I'm a sports massage therapist and stretch coach. I focus mostly on individuals that are in sport with chronic pain or injury. I love to intuitively create and customize a session based on the individual that I'm working with. We'll go over a few postural assessments, work together to create a wellness journey based on the health history, past injuries, or anything still affecting you today. And we'll get you back on your feet right away with less pain.
We're about to stretch, and then we're gonna smoke, because we're gonna get on our stretch and smoke. If you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to come on down and get a stretch and smoke with none other than Smoky Vanilla. Yes, and we're back. Coming up next, that's right, it's Mr. Saman Razani, the man who's having a little bit of hearing difficulty today, at least hearing me today. But nonetheless, you know what he's not doing? He's not having a hard time helping women over 40 say hello again. That's right, it is none other than Mr. Saman Razani.
How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? It's great to be here. Happy Tuesday. Yes, I'm having a little audio trouble, but we're gonna make do. I have a great story today. Our boy, could it be that Donnie's here to save the day? Who knows, people? Who knows? But Marijuana Moment reports Trump pledges to free Silk Road drug market operator Russ Ulbricht, despite calling for execution of drug dealers. I don't know if Trump's still on that Duterte shit, but this is interesting.
Probably endorsed him from prison.
Donald Trump says he'll commute the sentence of a person convicted of running a dark web illicit drug market. On day one, he's quoted saying, of his presidency if elected in November. A promise of clemency that seems to conflict with his position that people who sell drugs should face the death penalty. During a speech before the Libertarian National Convention on Saturday, Trump said, quote, "If you vote for me, on day one I will commute the sentence of Russ Ulbricht to a sentence of time served," earning boisterous applause and at an event that also saw the former president booed at various intervals. Ulbricht, who was sentenced to life in prison for operating the dark web market known as the Silk Road from 2011 to 2013, thanked Trump for the commitment in a post on X. Excuse me. All right. After 11 years in prison, it's hard to express how I feel at this moment, he wrote. It is thanks to your undying support that I may get a second chance. But Trump's promise appears to contradict the extreme drug policy platform he promoted at earlier stages of his campaign, which may have to do with the libertarian audience he was attempting to woo this weekend. Dozens of attendees raised Free Ross signs when he made the remarks. Last June, the former president defended his position that people who sell illicit drugs should be quickly convicted and executed, touting countries like China and Singapore for enforcing the lethal penalty against drug offenders. Trump said that capital punishment is the only way you're going to stop addiction. In that interview, however, he seemed confused when he was confronted with the fact that he proposed an execution plan for drug traffickers would have condemned a woman he pardoned and promoted as an example of a key criminal justice reform achievement during his administration. The exchange served as another example of the enigmatic drug policy worldview of the former president, who at one point, more than 30 years ago, said that the country needs to legalize drugs to win the war on drugs, but is now campaigning on an aggressive drug warrior platform. Trump has previously seemed to bask in the headlines about his criminal justice reform actions, namely clemency granted to people during his time in the White House, but at the same time seeks to appeal to voters as a tough-on-crime candidate. And while he's voiced support for medical cannabis and the right of states to set their own marijuana policies, he's also attempted to link mass shootings to genetically modified marijuana. That's a quote. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden's re-election campaign has twice attempted to draw contrast with Trump on cannabis policy. Specifically, it has promoted the president's marijuana pardons and moved to reschedule cannabis, comparing it to the withdrawal of federal marijuana enforcement guidance under the Trump administration. A GOP senator said last week that Biden's strategy to win the re-election this November is to get more people to smoke marijuana, end quote, criticizing the rescheduling push. And that wraps up the article by Kyle Yeager in Marijuana Moment. Guys, this is fascinating. I mean, obviously we know politicians are all full of shit, no matter who they are. So there's no surprise that he's flip-flopping a little bit here. But I know that there's somebody in his little group there that's telling him that he needs to be tough on crime to win some of the conservative votes. But what do you all think out there? Jason, what do you have to say about this?
This is not flip-flopping, Saman. This is all of my liberal friends taking Trump's words far, far, far too literal. When he was talking about convicting, what was the quote you guys said? Drug. What was it? What was it, Todd? I know you know this.
I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. You know, when he was talking about convicting drug traffickers to the death penalty. And yeah, he was strictly referring to people selling fentanyl.
Trump says whatever, is the quote of the day. He probably got an endorsement from the guy in prison, right?
No, stop it.
And he said, he saw a sign out in the crowd. Free him. Yes, I will do that on day one. I mean, that's what he does. I mean, he's a lying sack of shit that we all know, and he's not going to do anything that he says he's going to do.
He's done a lot of things that he said he was going to do. He's one of the only presidents that have done pretty much every campaign promise he campaigned on.
Yeah, how's that wall?
How's that wall working?
The wall is amazing. This wall is
Mexico
amazing.
paid for that wall? Did
Mexico paid for that wall.
Mexico
they did that.
For it.
That's why it's still not done, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought. Yeah, they can't get the guys to show up.
Yeah, Mexico defaulted.
Yeah. Yeah. The old default.
All jokes aside, though, I think this is fantastic that he said that he's going to free this guy. He's also brought up and said that he's going to free Julian Assange, and so I'm just like, yeah.
He said he's going to free all the people who broke into the Capitol.
He should free all those people that broke into the Capitol because they didn't break in; they walked in. Look at all the video.
Oh. To put Julian Assange in the same category as the guy who stood up the Silk Road, Julian Assange is the biggest whistleblower since Daniel Ellsberg. And the guy who ran the Silk Road, when he was federally prosecuted, it wasn't just drugs that were being sold on the Silk Road, weapons, a variety of other. So you're going to tell me that he's going to fucking free a goddamn illegal drug runner and weapons purveyor because he plays to a crowd. The thing that people like about Trump is he just says what he thinks. The thing that people don't like about Trump is he just says what he thinks. The problem with saying what he thinks is we can't track the bouncing ball of his thought process to figure out what his North Star is, what he plans on doing, what's really important to him, and when he's not playing to the crowd.
It's because he has no original thought. He thinks about whatever will get him elected.
In all fairness, Yarrow, you have you do have our current president who traded woman NBA All-Star for the so-called Merchant of Death plus like 4 or 5 others.
Correct.
So, if this is just one person, I'm fine with that. Let him free the one person. And you also, too, need to realize, too, is that he was speaking at the Libertarian Party, which is the 3rd largest political party in this country. And it was... I'm
actually surprised that Trump knows the difference between a libertarian and a liberal, since they first start with the same 3 letters.
He doesn't.
There is a difference between a libertarian and a liberal. That's for sure.
Yeah, there is. I just wouldn't expect this policy wonk, this Mensa member, this genius of all things societal fixing. Let's go through it. Like, this guy is just a stream of consciousness guy. He should be here with us at High at 9 News, just saying what he thinks, because he's really entertaining.
He's got good people around him, Yarrow. Good people. Good people.
Yeah, all of the people.
They're all in jail.
They're all in jail. Like, especially his national security advisor, right? Mm-hmm. That first guy. I mean, he was like, yeah.
Who are you talking about? General Flynn?
Traitor Flynn.
General Flynn is not a traitor. That's not true. That's not reality. But nonetheless, we're not going to go into those political rabbit holes. We're going to roll right on into the Sebastopol sage himself, Mr. Yarrow Kubrin, the man who likes to sleep in on holidays and not show up when there's things to get done. But nonetheless, it's okay because he's here today. That's right. It is Mr. Yarrow Kubrin.
I deserve that. I'm sorry I missed yesterday. I promise not to make a habit of it. I was very busy this holiday weekend testing cartridges for the Emerald Cup.
Because you're a hardware judge for the Emerald Cup.
I'm an oil judge. Thank you very much. Also writing some reviews on Buddhist. But without further ado, Tuesday morning, May 28th, my article today, this is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News. My article today is from Kyle Yeager at Marijuana Moment. Biden drug czar says marijuana rescheduling will have historic impact, but overstates effects of racial disparity in criminalization. The White House drug czar says the Biden administration's move to reschedule marijuana will have historic and long-lasting impact that could also make banks more willing to work with state-licensed cannabis businesses via legitimate interstate commerce. But for the second time in this past week, he seemed to overstate what the reform would accomplish, this time by suggesting it would address the racial disparity in cannabis enforcement. Rahul Gupta, director of the Office of National Drug Control Policy, weighed in on the proposal to move marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 under the Controlled Substance Act in an interview with the Star Tribune that was published on Friday. We had a policy for over a half a century where so many lives have been upended because of our failed approach to marijuana. We've had so many people arrested, prosecuted, and incarcerated. We know white, black, and brown people use marijuana at similar rates, but black and brown incarceration rates are higher. Gupta said rescheduling is going to be really important to remove barriers to critical research and perhaps drug development. It could also lead to more research into the benefits of medical marijuana. However, he said that this decision is going to have historic and long-lasting impacts. He also made several additional comments about the move that appeared to inflate the effects of the reform. It happens that with Schedule 3 drugs are much, much lower priority than that, say the way of like Tylenol with codeine or testosterone or Schedule 3, the official said, but it will have an impact on racial disparity, incarceration, and prosecutions. And whether in Massachusetts or West Virginia or Texas, Americans should be able to get treatment for their condition. A Schedule 3 reclassification would not federally legalize marijuana. And since the Food and Drug Administration has not approved the plant as a medicine that could be prescribed, the threat of criminal prosecution would remain in force for any cannabis-related activity. Gupta similarly oversimplified the idea of marijuana's potential availability as a prescription drug in another recent interview. There's nothing about the potential rescheduling action that would specifically address racial disparities in criminal enforcement. Penalties for certain marijuana-related activities would be reduced, and the policy change could theoretically signal to prosecutors that cannabis offenses are an even lower priority, but it would not change the law in a way that would inherently affect the rate of prosecution overall. Asked about how a transition to Schedule 3 could impact the willingness of banks to work with state-licensed marijuana businesses, Gupta said that we do know that the drugs that are Schedule 3 are in legitimate interstate commerce with the federal system. Again, however, he's referring to the FDA-approved drugs that could be prescribed as a health professional. By a health professional. FDA typically does not approve botanical substances as prescription drugs. Instead, it has so far only approved synthetic THC and CBD-based medications for the treatment of certain conditions. A report published by the Congressional Research Service earlier this month also clarified that further action by the FDA would be needed before marijuana products become available by prescription. I'll leave it to others to talk about the commercial process, the drug czar said. The focus for the president has been making sure Americans are able to get the help they need no matter where they live, and on the other side, making sure we're not harming people. Gupta was also asked about the possibility of a future administration reversing the rescheduling decision, like Thailand. He started by saying that Biden has given the opportunity to Congress to take action and did so because he could wait no longer. The independent reviews of these agencies followed established process and procedures in getting to this result. That process is driven through science, he said. I can't provide any hypothetical answers to what may happen. This is a change that is driven by policy, by science, by data, regardless of the political process. Rescheduling is a process that will continue to go on for the remainder of the year, he said. The historic nature of the actions that we're taking cannot be minimized. Not by you, Mr. Hype Man. The country's drug policy overall has caused too many lives to be lost and others to be impacted negatively. The president has been very consistent. No one should be in jail for using or possessing marijuana. These steps to move marijuana from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 is a policy that is consistent with the science in the 21st century. A former drug czar who served under President Barack Obama recently took a sharply different position, which I covered here on High at 9 News, on marijuana rescheduling than Gupta. Former director Gil Karolwalski recently said that cannabis is not medicine and that rescheduling was all big cannabis. This isn't people my age that are just old hippies that want to open up a pot shop somewhere, he had said in a podcast with former Representative Mary Bono. This is a huge business like big tobacco. Absolutely. Meanwhile, the proposed rule to federally reschedule marijuana was officially posted last week, kicking off a public comment period that's expected to elicit a major response from supporters and opponents of cannabis reform. Marijuana reform advocates and stakeholders have made clear that they intend to leverage the opportunity, with some planning to support the reclassification, while others intending to call for descheduling cannabis altogether. Prohibitionists are expected to oppose the incremental policy change and seek to keep marijuana in Schedule 1, and there's also a looming threat of litigation. What a surprise! While DOJ will take all public comments submitted by July 22nd into consideration as it weighs the reform, it is said in the notice that one of the topics it's especially interested in hearing about is the unique economic impacts of the rescheduling proposal, given that state-level legalization has created a multi-billion-dollar industry that stands to benefit from possible federal tax relief under the reform. On Capitol Hill, Chuck Schumer and colleagues have introduced legislation to federally legalize cannabis and impose certain regulations. The bill's prospects are dubious in the current divided Congress. Meanwhile, top Democrats in the House said that the Biden administration's move to reschedule marijuana is a step in the right direction, but should be followed with congressional action, such as passing the legalization bill Schumer filed. In a recent interview with Fox News, former DEA Administrator Asa Hutchinson said absolutely looks like the agency will follow through with moving marijuana from Schedule 1 to 3 under the CSA. Biden has separately issued 2 rounds of mass pardons for people who've committed federal marijuana possession offenses. Again, a Schedule 3 reclassification would not legalize cannabis or free people still incarcerated over cannabis. During his run for presidency, Biden pledged to move cannabis to Schedule 2, a stricter category compared with what's been proposed by his administration. This is Yarrow Kubrin, High at 9 News. I'd like to hear what my other guests and panelists have to say and what they think about this today.
Man, I find it super interesting that they acknowledge the fact that there'll be a major disproportionary thing with racial equality if this goes to Schedule 3.
This is such bullshit. And it's the reason why people who didn't really have a position on Biden one way or the other, when they see this hype parade that he and his vice president and now this guy are doing, it's such bullshit. And this guy said something that's actually different. He got his talking points a little conflated, because what the vice president has been saying is that no one should be in jail for smoking cannabis. And then this guy said no one should be in jail for smoking or possessing cannabis. And the way in which they continue to bang the drum and misrepresent the impact of the incremental changes that they're effectuating is intellectually dishonest. It's disingenuous. And so if you don't have an opinion on somebody and then you see them lying or hyping things to the degree that it's stretching credibility and truth, it's a great reason to no longer like them. I mean, people who might have otherwise been neutral on this administration are certainly, and who have half a brain, are going to see that this massive parade of look what we've done, look what we've done, look what we've done. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And then the way this guy, who is in charge of, his position requires some scientific capacity, is talking about how this is a combination of policy and politics and science. The science for this has been in for so long that that's also a disingenuous explanation for why we are where we're at right now. And so I want to like these folks. I really do. And every time they open their mouth, they just continue to lie. It's an absolute lie. What they are saying is an absolute lie. They've made these teeny little changes. It's like when my kids are going to do the dishes and I ask them to do the dishes and they wash 3 forks and there's a bunch of plates and bowls left. And then they come in the living room and they say, Dad, I did the dishes. Yep. No, you didn't. You washed 3 forks.
Exactly. Yeah,
kids do that too. You literally just walk into the kitchen and go, "What about that? And what about that? And what about that? And what about that?"
Yep, exactly. What about this and what about that?
What do you think, Saman?
I don't know if Saman can talk. Saman, are you there? Saman, are you with us?
He cleaned his office too well. He cleaned his audio away.
Yeah, he did. He did something. He did something. Saman, what do you think about this, Saman? I guess Saman doesn't think about this at all much or whatnot.
We can't hear you, brother.
Yeah, we can't. You're not saying anything, Saman. Are you on mute?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah. There you go. Yes, there you go.
I want to know what you think about this.
So, I mean, what I was trying to say was that I'm conflicted about the Schedule 3 hoopla. Obviously, I think that it's been a carrot for both administrations, and this is a long time coming, but like no one's done anything. They're just gonna try to ride the wave that they didn't create, that they've been stifling. So that's point number one. Point number two is that this doesn't get us closer to like being healthier, because now the government's just gonna fuck the natural products, right? So it's like it's just more of the same. Now it's just like consciously, products with cannabis in them. We're gonna see them just be adulterated more by like the preservatives and the stuff that's necessary to keep them on the shelves at a rate that's far greater than just the state to state businesses and commerce that's happening now. So me personally, from a product formulation perspective, I'm always gonna like err on the side of the natural product. I'm really disappointed because some of the great products and some of the great things that have been developed in the last 10, 15 years, some of the stuff that I've developed too, potentially has the risk of just being less effective because of the fact that it's a natural product and it'll have to be made differently potentially in the future if the FDA holds some kind of standards to the production and to the ingredients that can be used. We don't know. Again, this is all speculative, but from what we see, we can draw some conclusions, and will probably be accurate. So I'm just going to leave it there. But I mean, look, I just think it's a weaselly thing to do for a politician to try to be a proponent of cannabis at this time if they've never really been a proponent. And we all know that Biden's full of hot air. His clemency policy is don't let people who are in there unjustly for cannabis out. So, fuck the government. That's all I got to say.
Well, look at that, Saman, full of a little spice today. All right, you guys ready? I'm going to roll into my last story if you guys are ready. You ready, Yarrow? All right, hearing no objections, here we go. Jelly Roll, you guys, admits marijuana keeps him sober from Xanax, cocaine, and codeine. It's a hot button topic, but Jelly Roll, who has been training for a half a marathon, knows marijuana is a hot button topic. Jelly Roll is getting candid about his sobriety in an interview with The Taste of Country. The country music star explained how marijuana has kept him sober. I get in trouble for this all the time, but my stance on marijuana will always be the same. I believe marijuana has helped me in so many regards with my anxiety. This is a hot button topic, but truly, marijuana has kept me sober, he says. He went on to say, I think a world without weed, Jelly Rolls, drinking codeine and popping Xanax and snorting cocaine again, but a world with weed, I'll be all right, he says. Jelly Roll also touched on addiction and says, I know that I have friends that don't do that, he told the outlet. I have friends that are in a program that are totally against any kind of mind-altering anything. I respect that. I have so much respect for those people. That's just not how my sobriety worked out. Fox News Digital has reached out to Jelly Roll's representative for comment, and the Save Me singer has recently been training for a half marathon. He has dropped 50 to 75 pounds and continues to shed weight, telling Fox News Digital that he plans to enter the 13.1 mile race next year after completing a few shorter races first. In a quote, "I'm training as you can train. It's an 18-month process," and Jelly Roll explained, "and I want another couple 5Ks first. The goal is to do a half marathon next fall." The 39-year-old completed his first 5K, which is 3.1 miles, back in May 7th, after accepting the Burt Kessner Award. And beginning of this year, the Bears 5K couldn't walk a mile when he started to do this back in January, he told Entertainment Tonight. So the fact that we got 3 point whatever, it's done totally, I felt really good about it. He added that he had lost like 50 to 70 something pounds while training for the 5K run. His full name is Jason Bradley DeFord, and he has been candid about his struggles to lose weight over the years. And back in 2018, the country star revealed on Instagram that he weighed over 500 pounds in 2015 before he embarked on a health journey and lost 200 pounds. Thank you for getting... and that's it. That's the end of the story. What do you guys think about this? Jelly Roll thanking weed for his sobriety.
Look, the more celebrities come out in favor of cannabis, the better. It's all good. I mean, it does help people get off of really hard drugs. So
I think it's a conflation to say it's sobriety, though, right? Like, it's harm reduction, but like
my outro.
The cannabis I'm puffing on, I wouldn't say I'm sober afterwards.
Yeah, I actually I'm actually 15 years opiate free today. I got in a crazy accident 15 years ago, shattered my hip, and I was already growing cannabis at that time, but I really started the cannabis journey to heal and to like make oil and to like understand the benefits long term. And happy to say it's been 15 years. I haven't taken any prescription painkillers. I think the hardest thing I've taken in the last 15 years is Advil. And this is just a choice. I think that has been a tremendous help to me long term. But I know there's a lot of people out there still struggling with that. I want to let you know that there's so many stories of so many successful stories of people just being able to taper down their painkiller use. So look into that. Look into taking oil, like taking full spectrum like RSO or FICO oil. That'll help. And much respect to anybody that's trying to get themselves better and healthier.
True that.
100%. I couldn't have said it better myself, Saman.
I mean, if you're going to lose 200 pounds, you may want to lose a few face tattoos just in case your entire life is based on music.
Hold on, bro. Hold on. So he's lost. So
I'm gonna every single time.
So I
don't care how good or bad your face is. Keep it English.
So on his health journey, he says he lost 200 pounds, and then they're saying that he lost another 50 to 70. So are we assuming that he lost 250 to 270 pounds, or is that 70 or 50 pounds included in the 200? Because he's still a pretty big guy.
You can roll him in flour, Jason. I'm done with this guy. I just had the grossest image in my mind.
Oh my God.
He's a big boy.
He's big.
Oh.
He's big. And I think Jelly Roll is a very appropriate name for him.
I don't think it's any surprise.
You don't think
at least fat shaming is still socially acceptable, so I can run my mouth.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you all for getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. Big thank yous to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst and Zen Brands, Stretch and Smoke for helping us keep the lights on and everything else that we do. Thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. And thank you to Cannabis for giving us a reason to do all this. Thank you to Cloud Media Partners. And thank you for tuning in every Monday through Friday and getting high at 9 with us. It is America's #1 daily cannabis news show.